Greetings, this is Fred Barstein, contributing editor to wealthmanagement.com's RPA and CEO and founder at Trout, TPSU, and 401k TV. I review all of last week's stories and select the 5 most interesting and important ones, providing open, honest, and candid discussion you will not get anywhere else. So let's get real. First story, a few major DC record keepers reported year-end results led by Empower and Fidelity, furthering the gap between the Fab 5 RPA providers and the rest of the almost 40 other national record keepers. Empower showed an impressive 17% increase in assets, climbing to $1.5 trillion with 18.5 million participants, while Fidelity's DC assets jumped 22.3% to $2.3 trillion and 22.3 million participants, distancing them from even other elites like Vanguard, Principal, and Voya. Empower's wealth division grew 268% over the past 3 years to $72 billion, which still pales in comparison to Schwab's reported assets of $8.56 trillion and 35 million brokerage accounts with just 5.2 million DC participants. Other major providers include the 2 payroll companies, asset managers like American Funds and T. Rowe Price, both leaders in target date funds, fintechs, and regional TPA record keepers leveraging cheaper, more accessible, and shared technology. So while the consolidation of providers is expected to march on, advisors will still have many good options. Next story, Pantera announced a partnership with CapTrust to enable their advisors to manage clients' DC accounts as part of their overall financial planning. While Pantera has seemed to focus more on wealth firms and broker-dealers, RPA aggregators like CapTrust, which is the leader at $817 billion, can use Pantera not only to work with wealth clients, but also participants in their DC plans. Expect others to follow as the convergence of wealth and retirement picks up steam. Next story, as expected, the brokerage and insurance agencies pushed back on the DOL's new fiduciary rule at a recent congressional hearing, arguing that the agency has overstepped their bounds and it will hurt investors served by brokers and insurance agents. Michael Kitchis, who also seems to oppose the rule, recently wrote that the solution could be to require financial advisors to clearly label themselves as salespeople rather than advisors giving advice. The issue is that most DC participants are unsophisticated, which is why the DOL focuses on restricting behavior rather than more disclosure that the SEC prescribes. And does it make sense for an advisor to wear 2 hats, that of a salesperson and a fiduciary, to the same client, just as would we want our doctors also to represent pharmaceutical products? Next story, the DOL's EPSA division announced $1.4 billion in recoveries last year, similar to 2022, with $845 million coming from enforcement actions. There was a focus on terminated and vested participants, just as the DOL prepares their database in 2025 as required under Secure 2.0, and recently announced auto-transferability rules. $444 million was restored to workers who made 197,000 inquiries to the agency. All eyes are on the election, which could change the entire tenor of the DOL and their willingness to defend the fiduciary role if it ends up in court, as well as the Supreme Court's Chevron case, which would further limit all agencies' rulemaking ability. Finally, as plan sponsors wake up, going from being consciously incompetent to consciously competent, they will drive change in the DC industry, which has previously been led by record keepers, advisors, and asset managers. Read my recent wealth management column about how plan sponsors will dramatically increase the pace of change and force both advisors and providers to leverage the workplace to holistically help employees and with all of their financial and benefit related issues. So those were the most important stories from the last week. I listed a few others I thought were worth reading, including LPL makes a massive acquisition. Target date funds reach $3.5 trillion. One Digital acquires in Chicago. TIA settles SEC charges. And Morningstar provides insights about private equity in DC plans. Please let me know if I missed anything or if you would like to comment. Otherwise, I look forward to speaking to you next week on 401k Real Talk.